So today I'm going to be showing off a bunch of my older planes that I still really love. First up is the oldest plane I still have, the Kitten Jet Mark 5A, aka the Lunamar. It's pretty simple in terms of design. It's just a big block of engines with a big old line of guns and a big old block of wedges. It's still one of my faster planes, surprisingly. It goes about 500 miles an hour. And it's a reasonably agile plane for not having thrust vectoring. It's a very pre-airborne build, so there's no auto-aim. So it's pretty hard to shoot people down in this these days, but it's still pretty fun to fly it around. I nailed the landing, but for some reason I used all skis, so it doesn't slow down on the runway very easily. There's a lot of poor design choices in these older planes, but I still love them. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 6A, the Wildcat. It's a similar yet more reserved design, and this is the first plane that I have thrust vectoring on. Even though it's just little mini thrusters, it really adds some agility in the maneuvering abilities to it. It's another pre-airborne build, so no auto-aim. Just a heavy stream of bullets. And it features a split tail, so you can use it as an air brake or yaw. And I'm not even going to bother trying to land it properly because, again, it has all skis in the bottom, so it would just slide off the edge. I think I changed that in the next one. Maybe not. Now we're skipping a number and heading right to the Mark 8A, the Cat Bat. As you can see, it's the first plane that I put some real design effort into, not just functionality. It's got some decorations and some stylizations, of course, and this might have been the very first cat-themed build that I made. Anyways, let's fly it around. It has full thrust vectoring this time. It has the yaw thrusters on the wingtips, so we can do the Cobra maneuver, among other things. And just kind of float here and balance in the air. Again, no auto-aim, pre-airborne. And much slower than the last two, but it's a little bit more agile, and certainly it's just a pleasure to fly. It's a very leisurely plane, a Sunday flyer. No, this has just skis on the bottom too, but I might be able to pull off the landing. And if we slow down enough, that's fine. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 8C, the Hammerhead. Now this is a piston glitched build, so the sides squish in and the cannons basically meet up. So out of build mode, it still looks pretty chunky, but not quite as chunky. And this is a forward bomber with those tank cannons, so it shoots its bombs out forwards instead of dropping them from below. And again, no auto-aim. pre-airborne build. Full thrust vectoring, and a decent bit more power than the 8A. Still skis in the bottom, so I'm not gonna bother trying to land it. Next up is the 8D, the broadsword. This is another piston glitched one, except this time it squishes downwards. It's not a biplane. It looks like this out of build mode. And the reason it got named the broadsword is because it looks a little bit like a handle and a guard for a sword and a big ol' wide blade of bullets. Like a wide lightsaber. Let's come in for a gentle landing. There we go. Not too bad. Next up, we're departing from the kitten jets for a bit. This is the Flying Fortress Mark II. Pre-airborne build, so it uses tank cannons for its bomb bay, and it has a couple of guns on it. Now I hope I don't crash my game again, because the first time I tried this recording, I accidentally crashed into the mountain while all the guns were running, and the game shut down and the recording was lost. So it fires the tank cannons at a pretty fast rate. And here's all of the little guns. I forget exactly how many directions it shoots, but I think it's somewhere above 12. 12 different angles of fire. And it's a surprisingly agile build for being just a big old chunky block of guns. Next up is the Scoops Mark 4B. This one is not piston glitched, but has a bunch of hinge action going on. So it's got a pretty strong dihedral on the wings. And it's got a little bit of slidiness going on right now. That's better. Oh, I think one of the skis was stuck in the ground there. And it does have a little bit of piston glitching here in the front, with the 6-bladed extra strong propeller. Now we're getting into the post-airborne builds. So this has smart cannons with auto-aim on it, in a little spread pattern because of the way that the wings are angled outwards. And this is a very steady prop plane flyer. Doink. Oh, and it has thrust vectoring for pitch and roll. Next up is another kitten jet. This is the Mark 8F. The, what's it called? I think this is about the time I stopped giving them names because I was making so many of them, but this might have been the Seagull Cat, I want to say. It's a very gentle flyer, almost like a powered glider. It kind of drifts through the air. It's a post-airborne build again, so it's got smart cannons with auto aim on it, and a bomb bay. And it's certainly not agile enough for dogfighting. It's just a leisurely flyer that's not defenseless. And I botched the landing. That was not the plane's fault. Next is the Mark 9A, the Curiosity. It's a lot like the others, except it's one of the first post-airborne builds that I did. So it's got smart cannons and rockets on it. But it's got quite a bit more power than the Mark 8s tend to have. At least the early Mark 8s. While still having just as much agility. Again, full thrust vectoring, so it can do all the things. Oop. Huh? Hey, we stuck the landing. Just did a little roll. Next up is one of my all-time favorites and something that I've used time and time again and refitted with many weapons, the Kittenov. Inspired by the, was it the Antonov? Well, loosely inspired by. I just wanted to make a bigger plane than I ever had before. It's got retractable landing gear, which is something I pretty much never do. This it's got yaw flaps on the side that open up. They can both be opened up for air brakes. The guns are timed so that they fire at the rate of one smart cannon, but basically never run out of ammo. So that's why they have just a single little stream coming out of them. Even though there's 3 of them there. A decent payload of bombs. And this version has a pair of rockets, apparently. Landing gear down. I love the Kittenov. It's just such a lovely plane to fly. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 10A, the Jackal Cat. It's got a bit of a squished and misshapen face to it. But this was my prized dogfighter for quite a while. The Mark 10s all have the dragon thrusters as their thrust vectoring. So it's got a lot of maneuvering strength for roll and pitch. It's got 8 smart cannons, which is a bit much. But like I said, this is my top dogfighter for a long time. It was easier to take guns off than to put them back on over and over. boop. Now here's a slightly unique one, the Mark 10D. This has, well, it used to be a full autocannon, but now it's a burst autocannon, because they, in one of the updates, slowed down the fire rate of the large cannons, of course. But as you can see, it's got piston accelerator, so it fires those shots extra far, extra fast, which used to be very important before they updated the range that those cannons fired. Although now it's still pretty potent. Like I said, it used to be full auto, which is a little bit more intimidating. This is still pretty powerful strike plane. Now the auto aim is turned off for these two, because piston acceleration throws off the auto aim anyways, so it would just make the shots miss over and over. It's got the same thrust vectoring standard as all the other Mark 10s. Anyways, moving on. Next up is the Mark 8I. It's got a couple different things going on here. We've got the piston glitch for this section up here, and the hinges are going to close that up and make it look real smooth, although the cockpit does look a little like a lumpy forehead. It flies very steady. It's ugly, but smooth flyer. The guns are almost entirely hidden in the fuselage, except for just the little tips of the barrels pointing out, which is a little nice touch, I think. And it's also got a bomb bay tucked in the back. Mini thrusters for all that's thrust vectoring, although this one has a shared tail for pitch and roll. So the same servos do both. I think it's just one logic block. Or at least it should only be one logic block. I was kind of dumb back then, so it might have been more. Next up we have the Kitten Jet Mark 11A. Now the Mark 11's all aimed to improve my ability to make functional planes. So they get better and better as the series goes along. There's going to be a bunch of Mark 11s featured. I made a full alphabet of them. Anyways, this is the Mark A, or Mark 11A. It's plain. Not much more to say about it. Well, there's a little bit to say about it, I suppose. It's got the piston glitching. It's basically made out of mini thrusters. Now here we've got something fun. This is the Bonk Jet Mark III. This is a box cannon, or a metal crate launcher. The piston accelerator combo with the metal crate dispenser makes for a pretty silly but effective weapon. Or at least it used to be before the most recent update nerfed the damage impact. So it doesn't have any backup guns or bombs, it just has the boxes. But before the Motorhead update, getting hit by one of these would disintegrate your build. No questions asked. So It looks goofy, but used to be pretty powerful, and still can knock you out of the sky or tear a wing off pretty easy. If you manage to score a hit. There's not exactly auto-aim on this. And I believe this might have a gyro in it for yaw. Because I don't see any thrusters on it, but I can yaw. So, I think that means we're getting the space update that would be this made. Anyways, moving on. Next up is the Kitten Jet 9G. This is definitely after the space update, because we have our space thrusters here. And I remember using this one as my main dogfighter for quite some time. It's light, it's effective, it's got a spread to its bullets and auto-aim, so it could hit targets really far to the side, even though it would only plink at them. It's got a bomb bay. It's got partial thrust vectoring and a yaw gyro, so it's pretty maneuverable. All in all, a nice little plane. Boop. Next up, it's the Mark 11C, which looks kind of like a battle axe. A spiky battle axe. This one's one of the faster Mark 11s. We're up here at 430 miles an hour. And as you can see, it's nice and maneuverable. Oh, hit myself in my own bomb bay there. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 11D. Now this was my main dogfighter for a long time too, so I'd say it's pretty good. It's one of the very first planes that I put canards on. Those little front pitch flaps, or pitch fins. It also has aerodynamic and gyro yaw, so it's got really nice maneuverability. Actually, wait, is it gyro yaw? No, this one's not gyro yaw, I don't think. This one's just the wingtip thrusters. Oop. Uh-oh. Oops. I couldn't not show the little biplane. It's just got a little piston-aligned tail here to center it up. And it's just oh so cute. Look at how big that propeller is on it. It's just so cute. There's also a version that has a single bomb bay instead of a gun. I like these little things. Next up is Squishy Plane Mark 1B. Now, I still use a very slightly modified version of this. It's a pretty good plane, in my opinion. It looks not too shabby. Couple of piston shenanigans going on to do the cockpit and the front propeller. And it's a very stable flyer. This version's just got 2 guns and no bombs, but there's a couple different versions that I've made of it. Right now I'm on the 1C, is the one that I use all the time, and that looks like this. It just has double the guns and space thrusters instead of mini thrusters for the thrust vectoring. Oh, and it has a bomb bay. And cruise control. But it's essentially the same plane beyond that. Anyways, next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 11F, and it's a little bit of overkill in my opinion, but sometimes you need a little overkill. It's got the big rocket engines, as well as a bunch of mini thrusters to haul its heavy payload through the air. And oh, what a payload it has. The shield can be toggled. There's the rear guns. In case I'm getting chased, I can at least blink at them. All in all, a pretty powerful plane that I've not used too often, but I'm glad that I had it around when I did have to use it. I think it's been in a video or two. This one's a lot more restrained than the last. This is the Mark 11G. So, only one designation after that last overpowered one is a much more tame 2-gun, 2-bomb bay, but very agile little fighter. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 11J. Now it's got a little bit of piston glitching up in the front, but the main thing is that it's a variable sweep wing. And it's got 3 different fixed positions. It's got full open, cruising, and full speed. And of course, like most of the Mark 11, it's got canards, so it's got really strong pitch. And it's very light on the weaponry. Very lightweight fighter. But fun and agile with the ability to open and close your wings. Next we've got the Kitten Jet Mark 11L. And this one here is a VTOL. As you can see, the tail shifts down, and so do a bunch of the jets inside the fuselage. This is my very first VTOL plane. Actually, wait, no, I think this was the second. But it turned out pretty good in my opinion. Extremely maneuverable. Very fun to fly. Next up we have the Sawtooth Mark II, another overpowered variety of plane. As you can see, it's fully shielded and has excessive amount of guns. Well-timed guns, but excessive. It's also got tail and waist guns, although not as much of them. No bombs or rockets, but I don't think it needs them. I think it's got just enough firepower. I don't use it very often. It's too much. Next up we have the Kitten Jet Mark 11Q, and this one is a submersible jet. So, it's fully flight capable, does all the things that a plane should do, but it can also do them underwater, albeit quite a bit slower. It goes seamlessly from water to air, because it's good like that. I still keep this one in my transform slot because it's just so handy. If a regular plane goes in the water, I can just pop out of the water in this. Next up is the Kitten Jet Mark 11R, and it's another autocannon jet, but this one uses bomb bays to shoot its forward bombs instead of tank cannons. All it takes is a little logic and some pistons, and you can shoot your bomb bays forward like big bullets. Also, at this point, I've upgraded the yaw thrusters to space thrusters, so it's quite a bit stronger in the yaw direction in terms of thrust vectoring. No more mini thrusters. Next up, we have the Mark 11Y. This one's just piston glitch to have more space thrusters in a smaller area, with a little extra wings to boot. But this was one of my top dogfighters for a while. It's got just the right mix of power to lightweightness. And an amount of weaponry that's grown to become my standard, with 6 smart cannons and 2 rockets. Then we have the Mark 11Z, which is another box cannon jet. So it uses the pistons to accelerate the metal crate dispenser. and bonk planes right out of the sky. Goodness, I love thrust vectoring planes. It was so fun. Next we have the first of the Mark 12s, the Kitten Jet Mark 12A. It's got a split tail, which is one of the defining visual and functional traits of the Mark 12s. A pretty standard amount of weapons, for me anyways. And it's hella maneuverable. And just like the latter half of the Mark 11s, there's no gyros in any of the Mark 12s. The Mark 12s are non-gyro jets, and I don't think I'm ever going to go back to putting gyros in planes. Next is the Kitten Jet Mark 12D, which is one of my finest fighters. It's got all the maneuverability you would expect from a kitten jet. Its yaw is roll stabilized, so that even though the tail fins would normally cause a yaw effect, there's a roll effect in the wings that cancels that out. It also has the accumulator using cruise control, so you can set it at any speed you want. Set it and forget it. And a pretty standard amount of weapons. This is all in all a very stable plane. Stable and agile at the same time. That's why it was so good. It's still pretty good. I busted out again. Next is the Kitten Jet Mark 12E. This one here is another VTOL. As you can see, it's got the little back one that goes, and there's ones inside that also go down. Oh, what am I doing? This is a VTOL. We don't need to take off like that. Ba-ba-dum. No gimbals, no gyros, just space thrusters. Just the way I like it. Next up, we have the Nuke Jet. Now, it's a jet that carries a nuke. There's not much more to explain about it. I didn't build the bomb myself, I got it from a friend, but the plane is custom built to carry it. Oop, I missed the target. That's okay, it has an altitude sensor, so it blows up on the water too. I think it's got a time sensor as well, so if it lands on the ground without exploding, it'll blow up after a little while. Nice little surprise. flies better with the payload, but it still flies alright without it. If anything, it's a little bit more maneuverable, just less stable. Next up, we have the Kitten Jet Mark 12G, which is my current main fighter. Looks a lot more sleek than a lot of the previous Kitten Jets, more like a modern fighter jet profile. It's got the standard weaponry, but it's also got bomb bays and the ability to meow. It's got a bit of everything. Except gyros. No gyros. Just thrust vectoring. Then we have the Kitten Jet Mark 12H, which is a rare non-combat Kitten Jet, just made entirely for speed. And boy does she have speed. Who needs glitches to break the sound barrier? Not the Kitten Jet 12H. And now we'll wrap up with our most recent planes. Here we've got the Kitten Jet Mark 12I, which is a bomb bay autocannon jet, using the pistons to accelerate the bomb bays, and a bunch of logic to time it all out. Now this one does have backup guns. Next we've got the Kitten Jet Mark 12K, which is an even more powerful autocannon bomb bay jet. Twice as powerful, actually. It's pretty good at killing the mountain. But I have already shot a couple people out of the sky with this thing. Then we have the Kitten Jet Mark 12L, proudly sponsored by Melvin's. Another Bombay cannon jet, because I'm kind of obsessed with Bombay cannons recently. This one is a rapid fire one. So it all comes out in a very fast burst, which has been proving better at actually hitting planes mid-air. And if 4 of them going very fast is good, then the most recent one that I've built is even better. The Kitten Jet Mark 12M, just built today. It's a little clunky, noisy anyways. But it fires 32 Bombay bombs in a 2-second burst. It's a very powerful strike plane. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you've stayed this long, please like and subscribe. And, yeah. Thank you. Bye.
PlayStation